Hello and welcome to the Deep NBA podcast. My name's Sean and joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boffa, Mr. Boffa, man. How are we?
I'm alright. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
I've had a bad day with being talked about. But it's so nice to be here recording a freaking basketball podcast with my friend, my co-host, my adversary, sharing a bottle of non-alcoholic wine. Shout out to non-wine alternative.
Nah, I think it's just called non.
But it says non-wine alternative. What am I supposed to bloody do? And, talk about graphic design here. Salted raspberry and chamomile, but the word chamomile is literally just bleeding into the word non.
At what point does minimalistic become lazy as fuck?
Yeah, seriously, I mean, hit enter a couple of times on that one and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
It is nice to be here on this wet and wild day in Melbourne.
The start of the Melbourne floods. But give us one reason why it was such a bad day today.
Oh, I've been, I'm going travelling in 5 weeks. And my travel companion, my darling brother, Louis, and I had been very organised and we booked our flights a few weeks ago. Roughly, 2 months in advance.
Yep.
Perfectly, fine time to book the flights. And we were very happy because we had kind of gotten it out of the way. We're ready to go. That's the last big thing we have to do. Now it's party time. And the airline company, AirAsia, let's name them. They've done...
You've been in their DMs. So
they've absolutely shafted me so fucking hard. Have cancelled our flights and they're keeping our money, and the only method of contact that myself and hundreds of other dissatisfied AirAsia customers have is through a fucking online bot who's absolutely useless, and she hates you and she doesn't want you to get your money back. I'm now anti-AI.
If it's any consolation, I can almost guarantee you the bot doesn't hate you. But yeah, the company that has shafted you $1,000.
If I could get my hands on that bot, a la Ex Machina 2016, I'd cause some damage to her. She'd have the wires poking out of her eye socket by the time I was done with it. No, I'm not a violent person, but I am very frustrated with this experience, which is like I say, why it's so nice to be here, just chatting ball with my bud.
Well, speaking chatting ball with my bud, Draymond Green was engaged in some speaking ball with Jordan Poole the other day. I don't know if you flicked on the news or flicked on your computer or phone in the past week, but Draymond Green, we haven't actually talked about this on air because it happened just after we recorded a podcast. And I remember when it was first announced that Draymond Green had punched Jordan Poole, you messaged our group chat saying "Dynasty over," and I was like, shut up! You're a fucking get out of here.
I'm a hater.
And then there was a few articles talking about the lack of respect with the and trust between the veterans and the young guys, because obviously it's quite symbolic that these two soon-to-be free agents, one being the young up-and-coming third splash brother and one being Draymond, who wants an extension. Is he going to be worth it when he's 33 and older? And it was like, oh, okay, well, look, Steve Kerr said some stuff, Looney and Steph were like, you need to gain respect to the guys again. And then the video was leaked, and the video fucking was way worse than it sounds like in an article.
Way worse than anyone could have.
When I'm thinking punch, I'm thinking they're both sort of grabbing each other.
Yeah, jumper punch.
Jumper punch, but also like Serge Ibaka, where he's just like, he's been pulled away 15 meters and then he swings it, right? No, this was fucking, lean back onto your right foot and throw a punch as hard as you can. Jordan Poole lost balance, falls. Yeah. The only thing holding him up was the wall. All while Ron Adams just stops, just sort of exhales and just literally stares there while it's all going on, not looking phased at all. Shout out to Alessio, who had one of the funnier comments of the week where I was just like, God, look at Ron Adams in the video. He's just so deadpan. And then Alessio's like, respectfully, who the fuck is Ron Adams? For those playing along at home, he's the old cunt who always sits next to Steve Kerr, defensive mastermind.
He's not part of the coaching staff. They just let him sit there.
But yeah, so Draymond Green hit Jordan Poole, and the reason we're talking about it today is, well, obviously it's been big news for the week.
It's fucking topical.
But there has also been a development probably a couple of hours ago that as of tomorrow, by the time we're recording this, tomorrow, Draymond Green will rejoin the team. He'll go back to training tomorrow and then will likely be playing in our last preseason game, which I believe is the day after, and then is expected to play on opening night. What did you think about this whole thing?
Well, I mean, obviously it's not great to have the veteran leader of your team absolutely clocking your 23-year-old star in the fucking face.
Yeah.
And I think it's difficult. You mentioned that they're both free agents, but I think it's difficult, like, to assess this, what it means for the team as a whole. Like, Draymond can go away and he's like said all the right things, like, I failed as a leader, like, I need to earn, he's said, like,
5-minute apology and all that,
I need to earn their respect back, yada yada. And it's difficult to assess, is this a Poole and Draymond thing? Because the initial reporting of this was Poole has kind of, like, his attitude's changed, he's maybe been a bit too big for his britches. Can
I say that was a report in the past couple of weeks, but Steve Kerr, Steph Curry, Ron Adams, everyone came out and was like, that is so incredibly incorrect.
Which then leads you to the question of, well, what's happened here? Is this a Poole and Draymond thing where it's two people who don't get along, which is nothing new? Which
is maybe, has that leak that went to the media about Poole's attitude things come from Draymond and Clutch?
Yeah. Well, I mean, wouldn't put it past them. They've
done it in the past.
Yeah, they have done it in the past. And their media tendrils stretch through the landscape of the basketball commentariat. So, I wouldn't put it past them at all. But the other slightly more concerning kind of like possibility that you alluded to before is like, what if this is indicative of a wider rift between your veteran leaders of the team, who you've mentioned, Steph, Looney, and Dre. Throw Clay in there as well, and the younger guys. It's difficult for us from the outside looking in to diagnose what that is. But even at the very best case scenario is that it is just an interpersonal problem between Draymond and Poole. And Poole is like, a fiery young, potential star. And Draymond is possibly one of the most grating personalities in the NBA in recent years. So it's perfectly understandable to imagine that is just what it is. I think it is worth considering, though, like, what does that mean for this team? Because they get so much from Draymond. Draymond kind of like towing the line with his teammates as much as with the coaches and the officials and the opposition is so valuable to this team. And in this case, he stepped right over it. Is he going to be like a more cowed, cautious, like less vocal version of himself as he tries to reintegrate himself into this team?
I don't think so. Just because I've never seen him be like that. Even when he was fighting with KD and even when they had, they would come back the next game, he was still right up on him and had still said to the media, I'm still going to ride guys, like, no matter how hard. Don't smile. Grow up. But, like, I reckon honestly, it could be the start of the downfall of Draymond Green.
Dynasty over.
I don't think that means that it's the start of the downfall of the Golden State Warriors, but it is sort of like, I've been watching basketball a little bit before the Warriors started, but for most of my basketball watching life, the Warriors have been the greatest team of all time.
Must be fucking nice.
And it's always been like the fact that we won last year, it's like, oh God, like when will we stop? Like Steph Curry is 34 years old. He has to eventually stop making threes. But now there is a light, or maybe a darkness at the end of the tunnel, because it is this is going to end with Draymond. Like this could be how it ends. And Tim Kawakami of The Athletic had a very sobering article today titled "Warriors and Draymond Green Reached the Last Stage of Their Marriage." And I don't know how plugged in he is with his opinion, because it could be simply just his opinion, or it could be an informed opinion where he pretty much says, look, we should give credit to Jordan Poole here for being a really mature person, because it seems like the decision was that the players are going to decide when Draymond gets reintegrated back into the team. Obviously, you've heard from Steph and you've heard from Loon and Iggy. You can imagine he's said some things, but I don't think he's spoken to the media yet. But it's very much seems, from what Tim Kawakami was saying, that this was a bunch of guys saying, all right, we might be and probably are favourites to win a title next year. Let's just bury the hatchet, even if it is for 12 months, because we can win a title, and that's extremely hard to do. So let's win a title. Let's tackle all this a year from now. And from what it sounds like, tackling that involves, holy fuck, we're paying $500 million in taxes, on top of paying for the team, on top of like all the expenses. Who's the first thing you cut when you look to cut money, especially because you've got these young guys coming up and dudes that like, I mean, James Wiseman's fucking extension eligible next off season. Like, what the hell does that look like, right? What if he has a good season? It's like, okay, Draymond Green's probably the first person to go. And then I like to say that Steph, Clay, and Draymond have never lost a playoff series while they've all been on the court since 2016, with LeBron James obviously doing LeBron James things. But like, that might just not be a thing anymore from next season. So this could be the end of the Warriors dynasty, and it would be Draymond Green's fault.
Well, and politically though, like for the locker room, letting the players decide it is all well and good. There's no way politically that Poole could have like done anything other than say it's all good, we want to win, like let him come back. Because if the power is given over to the players and he's like, nah, I'm not playing with this guy, everyone else is going to be like, mate, get over it, put it behind you, like you need to move on, stop being baby. So I don't know that we should be lauding praise on Jordan Poole for being so mature when he took realistically the only avenue available to him. But again, politically, for the chemistry of the team, like we're recording this 5 days out from the start of the season. Jordan Poole has 5 days to sign a contract extension that you would imagine that we've, you know, as we discussed last week, the Warriors have every reason to want to get him to sign that contract extension, lock him up on a good number now. Dre is one of the more interesting free agency decisions of next season because he's going to be 33 coming into his free agency. He averages 7 points a game. He's getting paid $25 million currently. And like you're saying, like there's no guarantee that they're going to bring him back with the salary cap skyrocketing. And he's agitated, you know, during this offseason for a new contract.
He said he wants the max and he's not signing anything less.
If Jordan Poole gets his contract's done before the season and Draymond goes into the last year of his deal without a contract extension, I don't know, there's clearly already something going on between those two. But if you give Poole that ultimate security and that ultimate vote of confidence in you being like the one for the future, and Draymond, who is, you know, it's sometimes cliche to say heart and soul, but like he really is the heart and soul of this era of Warriors basketball. If he's just kind of hanging out in the wind when he's shown publicly, and you can imagine privately, that he's feeling insecure about his financial situation and his place on the team, then I don't know. I just think that could get a little bit frayed. Like the phrase have already started to appear.
I get your point, but also like, come the fuck on, Draymond. Like you're not going to get a contract before the start of the season. Not that his deadline is before the start of the season, but like you just can't. If that's how he felt before, there's no way you're going to get a deal done before now. Like it's like you've thrown that out the window. Whether you got angry because of financial reason or anything else, like that's it's sort of out of his power there.
Would you, putting yourself in the shoes of Bob Myers?
Is that Marco's mum's friend?
It actually is Marco's mum's friend.
Put me in his shoes.
Putting. Oh, jeez. That is a nice sound, taking the spoon out of the non-alcoholic wine bottle. Jeez, is this going in my head? Would you say, like, say you make a deep playoff run, it's a successful season, yada yada. Draymond's a free agent come July next year, July 1st. Would you give him like a 3-year, $75 million deal? Do you think he's still a $25 million player?
Nah. Well, yeah. I mean, I picked him for Defensive Player of the Year.
So that's the thing, right? Is that he is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. He's the anchor year after year.
I mean, he was the favourite before he hurt his back last year.
And the clear favourite. Like, not like it wasn't even really a question. It was Draymond Green for the first 30 games of the season, and then he hurt his back, and kind of, you know, you can't give it to someone who didn't do it for the whole season.
Yeah.
That's been established. But he also is a complete non-threat scoring. not effective
I
or
don't
efficient.
know if you watched the last game of the Boston series. He hit 2 threes.
Not that notwithstanding, he's not effective or efficient from any area of the court. He's an awesome passer, and he takes playmaking duties off of Steph, which is valuable for unleashing, Steph's scoring instincts. Like that much, just retreading the things that we know from the last 8 years of Warriors basketball. But those are the sorts of things that don't tend to like age really well. Like he's not that far away from being like, I don't know, like a PJ Tucker type player, like a complete offensive non-threat.
So to answer your first question, like if there's no personal issues, I would sign him to that deal because...
What's the highest you would go?
I don't know. And B, it is kind of hard to tell because it's like, with the new cap environment, like we're seeing dudes get a little bit more. But in the old numbers that we're more accustomed to in the past 2, 3, 4 years... I would if you could get him for less than $20 million a year.
I don't think that's happening.
Well, just like shut up, Draymond. Just sign it.
Well, the difficulty is that he's been just as much a part of this run as everybody else, and he's a 4-time All-Star. He's been All NBA. He's won end of year awards, Defensive Player of the Year.
But he also clearly doesn't hurt our offense.
No, he doesn't. And I'm not trying to suggest that he is. I'm just trying to suggest that future is potentially around the corner where he's not doing anything.
He can't get worse. 7 points a game.
7 points a game is pretty low.
Yeah.
But he's saying all of his peers getting max deals. And I don't for a second think that he thinks he's as good as Damian Lillard. But does he think that he's almost as good as Damian Lillard? Probably. And how much money did Damian Lillard get? Damian Lillard got
Yes, $60 million a year.
Yeah, $120 million over 2 years.
I think maybe a better comp that we could compare him to, and maybe he compares himself to, is Rudy Gobert. Like another dude who his offense isn't amazing, and you don't get him from his offense, but he's obviously a Defensive Player of the Year. And Rudy's making $35 million a year, or whatever it is. Yeah.
More.
Draymond could see that, but I think he's punched it out of existence. That
was such a big punch.
Yeah, it's he has now lost bargaining power for the next 3 free agencies.
Yeah,
right?
There are footy players who wish that they could ever have landed a blow as good as that.
And also you talk about the heart and soul of the team. Fucking Jay Crowder's on the trade block. We can just bring him in. It is concerning, and I just wonder what it's like. What would this team be like without him? Maybe PBJ, Patrick Baldwin Jr. sits at the 4 and just drains threes. What if it's Otto Porter for the whole season at the 4 with all the starters that we know and the young guys progressing?
Is this a hypothetical because Otto Porter currently is not on the team?
Yeah, but maybe
it is.
Let's just pretend next season you could just swap in or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Would you not pick us to win?
No, because he is such a... For all of his 7 points a game, he's one of the most unique players that this team has ever seen. And his combination of being a top 5 defensive player in the league and also being able to handle the ball and average 6-7 assists, that's stuff that not only doesn't really happen in the modern NBA, but that's something that's not really ever happened ever. For your point to be essentially be a point forward who's also a defensive ace. We'd be talking about Scottie Pippen, as one of the only other players in NBA history who can kind of be in the upper echelons defensively and still be an awesome top tier playmaker. So those things. You said before he's not hurting your offense. He's propelling your offense. He's facilitating your offense.
He's passing it to the curl before the guys even thought about touching the screen.
He's screening in some of the most intelligent and instinctive ways that we've seen. And his knowledge of where and when to be inside this Steve Kerr offense is just unparalleled. So you can't sub him out. You can't get him. You can't get someone in who's going to make the same passes, who's going to set the same screens, make the same cuts, because that person doesn't exist. When the Warriors lose Draymond, it will be stylistically a turn of the page as well, because you'll be playing with someone who's either far more limited or much more traditional at the 4. And I'm just I worry that I worry that is like not too far around the corner because those things are all well and good whilst he's at least looking at a 3-pointer, but that's not the direction that things are trending. That the direction that we're trending in is that his offensive like inclusion and output is declining, not improving. And you're right in saying that he with this punch was in a difficult situation already, because if it wasn't a difficult situation they would have extended him, because the heart and soul of your team is up for an extension. You extend him. You nail out a reasonable contract extension, erring on the side of caution to the player, saying like, alright, if it takes extra $5 million per year to keep you, we'll keep you. So he was already in a difficult situation for that not having had happened. But clocking someone in the jaw. Just lucky that there was no damage, because in the NFL maybe like 7 or 8 years ago there was a starting quarterback who got punched in the face by this random guy who ended up getting cut. Like, he didn't even make the team. He punched him in the face and broke his jaw, and he was out for 6 to 8 weeks, and he like missed half the season, and the team was terrible. And everyone was like, man, you really punched this guy in the fucking face and broke his jaw. And then it came out that the reason why he got punched is because the quarterback owed him like $300 for money for a flight. So anyway, lucky that Jordan Poole is not like drinking through a straw right now, and we're talking about like how will the Warriors compensate for Jordan Poole missing the first 2 months of the season.
Well, that was a beautiful full circle to you strangling the AI bot, the Air Asia bot.
Seriously.
But yeah, it is really upsetting that I always. Obviously they're not, but I've just thought this team must be immortal because they just keep winning games no matter what. Steph Curry keeps hitting threes, but it's like, fuck, we are mortal. Like, I can stop being a.
Well, we're saying that now in early October,
but in
2 months when you're 31-5, we can revisit this, and you will have staved off your mortality, looking yourself in the mirror experience for another year. But
it does seem like, hey, this is the last 12 months. And maybe everyone will, maybe when we're celebrating a title in 2023, everyone will be drinking champagne, but how about this? Like, this was amazing. But like, it seems like a patchwork for a 12-month fix, and then
can't you just see Draymond going to Detroit?
Or I don't know. Is there a team that's essentially run by the same agent he shares with some other people? I don't know. Is the Lakers
a notable one, perhaps?
Who knows? I mean, it would be the third
petition for the Lakers to re-sign Russell Westbrook and keep Pat Bev, and then get Draymond next season just to see what happens.
He'd be the fucking third power forward on that roster, like the third starting power forward. But that hasn't stopped them before. Like, we'll talk about this very much through the season. But Draymond Green will be playing basketball tomorrow in pre-season, and could be a little bit awkward. One final thing I do want to mention is at the start of this year, obviously I was really high on Jordan Poole, and I thought he was going to be the most improved player. It didn't happen, but he played a major role in us winning a title, so more than vindicated. But there was this moment where Draymond Green is just like, he's flung this pass just before Jordan Poole's run around a screen, and like something I mentioned before. And it was like the only other people I'd seen him do that before was Steph and Clay. And I was like, oh my God, Jordan Poole's the next Splash Brother. Like, he's draining him just as much. Obviously, he's super cocky with his threes, and he hits him, and it's amazing. And while that very much was a Splash Brother sort of thing, that pass, I don't think any other dudes could do. And then, like, you talk about his value, like, he's 7 points, 6 assists, Defensive Player of the Year. But, like, that is a pass that I don't know if there's any other power forwards or point forwards that make that pass.
He's in the absolute top tier of playmakers, particularly within the context of that kind of offense where so much of it is movement and anticipation. That pass you have to throw before the player is open. You know that the player is going to get open, but it requires a level of trust and repetition that is difficult to come by.
And on that note, I caught the ball at the high post on Monday, caught it above my head, and then I look at the other big man Ruben with my eyes, like he's sitting on the same side of the post as me, and I motion with my eyes to go to the other one, and I do that little LeBron flick, floats just over the hands of the defender. Ruben catches it, puts it up. I know what you're talking about, Draymond. Right, let's get on to the news of the week. And probably the biggest news that happened this morning was that the Phoenix Suns are interested in trading for Jordan Clarkson, according to Jake Fisher of now Yahoo Sports. He's just started.
You know what? It has to be said. Jake Fisher, he's now repping the purple of Yahoo, and he's still doing yeoman's work. He's still putting in... He's still work. Punching in first and clocking out last.
What are your thoughts, Phoenix Suns fan?
Let's not do this.
Really?
Yeah, because we've got so many small men. We need some...
Yeah, but they're not very good at basketball.
We need some big men. No, I think, we've had this conversation previously about Crowder, the asset, versus Crowder bringing in, a pick that gets flipped.
Yeah.
Whatever the ultimate, deliverance of Jay Crowder into useful rotation player, I think that player needs to be, at the very, very minimum, a combo forward.
Yeah.
We don't need another guy.
See, I would have agreed with you 24 hours ago.
And what's happened?
Well, I listened to Bill Simmons Over Under podcast. Right?
Are you taking the piss?
I'm being dead set.
Oh my God.
Last night I listened to
that is not a sentence that I just expected to be delivered to be delivered seriously.
It was so
what
serious.
What changed? Well, I was listening to Bill Simmons.
No, because Bill Simmons was saying, he's talking about whether the Phoenix Suns can win, 54.5 games or over, right? And he goes, he's like, I just would...
Our over wasn't even that high. It was lower than that.
54.5 tied with Golden State and the Clippers.
Mate, that's cap. And I'll tell you why.
There's 50 different outlets. Mate, so you don't tell me.
I'm going back in the fucking...
Doco.
Yeah, I'm going in the... Anyway, talk amongst yourselves.
So he was saying that while it's great that Chris Paul, point guard, etc., he has dropped off in the past couple of seasons. And drop off for him is still a very good point guard. But... As he's playing more, he shot
52.5.
Okay, he shot a career worst from or near a career worst from 3-point last season. Shot attempts are going down, passes are obviously going up, but it's just sort of shying away from the rim, doing the sort of stuff we see old small guards do. And then Bill Simmons goes, I would have loved just to see just another point guard in there for when Chris Paul misses a quarter of the season, or when Chris Paul wants to maybe play 25 minutes one night instead of 35.
Bro,
right?
Are you being serious? We literally have Campaign on the roster.
And as we know, Campaign isn't good. And Bill Simmons said, I wish they would have just gone out and signed Dennis Schroeder or someone like that. Just a minimum guy who can just soak up 10 to 15 minutes. And then when you're playing OKC, when they're just trying to lose as many games as possible, you can say Chris Paul will take the night off and then just chuck in at least 2 competent point guards, right?
Yeah.
Jordan Clarkson gives you that. He's at least a person.
I just disagree so heavily.
But he's at least a person who can play 25 minutes a game.
Yeah, but you're not giving your offense to Jordan Clarkson and saying, go be the point guard.
Yeah, but against OKC in the regular season you are.
Nah, Jordan Clarkson mimics things that we can get from what we already have.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think he's... You obviously want a scoring punch off the bench from the backcourt, and since Campaign
traditionally we have to.
Since Campaign has proven to be most of his career Campaign and not 2020-21 Campaign,
it's the crowds.
Rest in peace. We don't have that, but what we need is kind of an interior presence from the big man spot. That's not a traditional center. If Torrey Craig was 30% better, Torrey Craig, I can't believe I said Craig. If Torrey Craig was 30% better,
or if Jock Landale was more mobile.
That kind of player, someone who's big who can actually grab a board, because we're perennially getting out rebounded. Someone who can finish inside and
not Bismack Biyombo.
Not Bismack Biyombo. We're not We're a team that lives and dies by jump shots. And whilst Booker and Paul are 2 of the 5 best mid-range shooters in the whole league, awesome. That makes sense to play to your strengths. But as you mentioned, Paul's taking those shots less and less. Those shots are becoming less available as his ability to separate from defenders reduces, and his desire to get to that spot changes. And so having someone who can consistently score closer to the basket is what we need. We don't actually need like more 3-point shooting because we've got like so many guys between Mikal Bridges, Booker, Cam Johnson, Campaign when he's on. We've got Shamet coming off the bench as well, which is like
he plays well in preseason because he plays 30 minutes a night.
I mean, Shamet like Shamet is like Clarkson is Shamet if he was 50% better. But the skill overlap is like there. The things that Clarkson does, we already have.
Yeah,
whereas there's like a hole in the roster for like a big wing or like a regular size
Jay Crowder type.
No, well, even bigger than Jay Crowder because Jay Crowder struggles going up against like big men.
Yeah, right.
Like
right.
you know, not like the
not Jokic,
not the Jokic and Embiid's of the world. But yeah, like a Kawhi or even a PG can push Jay Crowder around. Like we've like LeBron posting up Jay Crowder. Every time LeBron goes for a turnaround jump shot, he misses it because Jay Crowder's just like, I'm just going to get there. But anytime LeBron wants to go to the rim, like, you know.
Well, if the choice is simply like, would you rather have Jordan Clarkson or Jay Crowder, and it's just a straight swap, what would you rather?
Well, like Jay Crowder's not going to play. He
obviously wants... Let's say you can convince him. Let's say you can give him that bottle of limoncello, and then all of a sudden he wants to play.
I think I'd probably prefer Jordan Clarkson just because he's obviously a better player than Jay Crowder at this point in their careers. Jay Crowder was noticeably worse than he was the year before. Do
you have a first round pick to throw in there?
Yeah, we do. We've got all of our picks.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like, live for the rest of the future. You feel
Yeah. Which is why we were going to be able to swing the KD deal.
Yeah.
If we only had included all of the picks.
Yeah. Also, we're not going to talk about it, but there was another report from Jake Fisher that Cam Johnson was like not on the table in the KD talk. Cam Johnson was like never going to be included, and that was one of the sticking points.
So he's the McDaniels of Phoenix. Was it McDaniels or Vanderbilt
McDaniels.
It's McDaniels. Yeah. Clarkson is a better player, and Crowder is getting worse.
Yeah.
So I don't think it makes sense. You know, if you're doing it in a vacuum, like would I rather have Crowder back for this team again or roll the dice for something new with Clarkson? I'd rather do the latter. But if we're not doing it in a vacuum and we're saying that there's potentially a better way to use the asset that is Jay Crowder's contract
and one first round pick.
Well, I mean, I don't even know that we necessarily need to attach that much.
Danny Ainge said everyone on this roster, Mike Conley, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Sam Jordan Clarkson, all of them are worth first round pick, and then he traded Bojan Bogdanovic for not a first round pick.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's at least what he's asking for.
NBA GM lies. Breaking news.
Honestly, AFL GMs could learn something from it.
AFL GMs could just learn in general. They actually have a little bit to learn.
All right, well, and another little tidbit from Jake Fisher was that, quote, the outcome of this trade would likely involve Crowder receiving a buyout from the Jazz and then picking his ultimate destination, unquote, which is good for basketball. Like, I think that's the best. Whoa, handsome boy wearing my shirt. That's on the podcast.
That was your housemate, Llewellyn, just walking through. I feel like that needs context.
Looking dashing.
Very dashing.
But Danny Ainge, like, surely he can, like, fucking swing something here, make it like a three-way trade and get someone else involved, but it just doesn't seem to be a thing. Oh, it's making a three-way trade for Jay Crowder. But anyway, you got any final points to add on this one?
No, other than I don't think that's a realistic possibility here. Like it doesn't feel like a three-team trade kind of thing because Crowder's not like a commodity in demand enough. Like there will be trades for a collection of picks on the table probably for Crowder because his contract's only $9 million, so it's pretty easy to fit that in. You can take back as much or as little salary as you need and throw in whatever picks. And I think that's more appealing than potentially like getting a smaller return in or less like a less ideal return in a three-team trade.
All right, next piece of news is that the Dallas Mavericks are in, quote, advanced talks, untalked, to sign Facundo Campazzo, coming from Mark Stein from Heath's Substack. Campazzo is not a very good basketball player. And I can tell you that because I watched a lot of Nuggets games last year.
But he's old and European.
And he spoke to some Argentinian media outlet.
Oh, true. He's not even European. He's Argentinian. Argentina, famously the Europe of South America.
He spoke to some Argentinian media outlet maybe a month or 2 months ago, where he goes like, I belong in the NBA. I just need another look, like another contract. And this is it. Like this seems like something the Dallas Mavericks would do. Something about just surrounding Luka with like ball dominant white dudes from non-American countries. He's just not good at basketball, and this is just such a shit piece of fucking news, and they're probably going to do it.
Wow, way to absolutely just fucking take down our own podcast. No, they should do it. I mean, like if he's your third point guard, like, you're fine.
Because he doesn't have to play.
Yeah. Yeah, fine.
But that's why you use your third point guard on someone like Ryan Rollins.
But he is their third point guard.
Yeah.
So he won't have to play. They've got Luka and Spencer Dinwiddie in front of him. They've got Reggie Bullock and DFS and Tim Hardaway coming back on the wings. So he's not going to be pressed into like probably playing at the point alongside Luka or Dinwiddie at the 2. Like, that won't be a look they have to go to. I don't think that he'll need to play. So you may as well get as many non-American guys in the NBA as possible, because it's more fun when there's less Americans playing in the NBA. That's what I'm saying.
When I was living at my other house, I'll be watching Denver Nuggets games. My housemate Armando, who's Italian, used to come in and I'll be watching Denver, and then Campazzo would do something and he'd be like, Campazzo no Aris. And then every time we'd be like, he's Argentinian, he's not Italian. Campazzo no Aris, huh?
What does the Argentinian accent sound like?
Different. Nah, straight up.
I don't know. But I'm curious.
Maybe we'll search it up later.
Yeah.
LaMelo Ball is going to miss the start of the season with a grade 2 ankle sprain, according to Shams Charania of The Athletic.
Thank fuck I didn't take him in fantasy.
Well, I was thinking about taking Terry Rozier in fantasy, but...
you were going to be the brave soul that was going to take Terry after he was hanging out there.
He hung there for so long. But literally the day later... He would have gone like 3 rounds earlier.
Yeah.
Because this is, quote, Ball's return will be based on how his recovery goes over the coming weeks, end quote. This could be a very good tank job by the Charlotte Hornets, who are obviously without their starting small forward in Miles Bridges. Also, I did draft Kelly Oubre Jr., Tsunami Puppy. I forgot he was called that. I drafted Kelly Oubre Jr.
Puppy.
So just watch... watch my fantasy space, and is this the start of the tanking jobs? Because right now, as far as we know, Larry Markkinen is going to play 82 games, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to play 82 games. We're already being told that LaMelo Ball is not going to play 82 games.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no reason to rush that back in, because as we've discussed, this team's ceiling is like the 12 seed. Like, if everything begs right, it's the 12 seed. Wouldn't it be like kind of unreal though for like Gordon Hayward to miss a Gordon Hayward amount of time, so half the season, and then Kelly Oubre literally probably is their second best player behind Rozier.
I drafted him.
Kelly Oubre is getting
round.
20 shots a game, which is awesome if you're going for overall production. But if you're trying to win field goal percentage as a category, then that's pretty bad.
I'm not.
Yeah,
I've got Bradley Beal on the team as well.
Yeah, alright, good luck.
I'm not going for it.
Yeah. I just can't not go for it. A little bit of fantasy chat here, but like every this is the third year we've done it, and every year I'm going for it.
Who's your bigs?
I got Gobert.
Yeah, right. You draft him every year.
Literally, it's 3 years in a row that I drafted Gobert.
You don't even love him that much.
No, I don't even like him, bro. And I was sitting there saying I'm not taking Gobert or Towns because I'm skeptical of the fit.
Yeah.
And I'm in wait and see mode with that. And then Gobert was there, and I was like, he was like 10 picks later than what he should have been there. And I was like, I'll just take him. I guess I'll go for rebounds, field goal percentage, and blocks again.
It's worked for you so well. All right, next piece of news coming from Thunder PR that the Oklahoma City Thunder have waived Jaden Shackelford and they're signing Abdul Gadi.
What's funny about that?
Because I go on Real GM every day and I read all the news.
Yeah.
And there's honestly 50 of these.
Yeah.
Because like if you waive a dude, then you get their G League rights. But just don't put it in the thing, man.
But now this is going to take the listener behind the scenes a little bit, behind the curtain, behind the kimono. You're complaining about basketball media including stupid news like this, and then you're including it in your basketball media when you have the chance not to. So you're as bad as a real GM. You're saying that you're sick of it, yet you're taking the opportunity to include it when you don't have to. Why are we talking about Abdul Gaddy? Who is Abdul Gaddy?
Now let's quote Mad as Hell here and say, it's just a bit of fun. For the 3 people that understood that, nice. Don't Google him. Don't tell me about him. Don't Anthony Gill him.
He's 30 years old. He's actually 30.
Don't Anthony Gill him, please.
He last played for Prometheus Patras of the Greek Basket League and the Euro Cup. Prometheus. We could talk about the Alien franchise, or we could talk about Greek mythology.
Prometheus is quite good.
The myth or the movie?
The movie.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good as well.
I can't believe I just said that when you clearly said there were 2 things to talk about.
No, I do.
I like Alien.
I do generally like science fiction and fantasy films where they do lots of like universe exposition.
Yeah.
You know, like,
they just keep going backwards.
I just want to know how things got to be the way they were. I want to know why. I don't want to know that there's these fucking alien cunts that are going to eat your face and they've got 2 mouths, one inside the other.
Yeah.
I want to know how it all happened, and they did a very good job of doing it. Michael Fassbender was stunning in his role as David.
Going back in time, you can obviously like just recreate the shock of seeing the aliens and the eggs for the first time, which is like pretty cheap, but like nice.
But also when they're going back, there's like the clueless captain, and spoiler alert, he gets a fucking egg on his face. Look at this bloke, he's got an egg on his face. But you know, having watched like 2 alien movies and then watching Prometheus, he chronologically he doesn't know that they're gonna go on his face, and he like walks down. David takes him down into the room with all the eggs, and he's like, "Look, I've got something to show you." And he's like, "What could it be?" "A room full of eggs." And then he's like, "Take a look in this one." And then bam. And you're like, "No, what are you doing, you idiot? You dickhead. Don't look inside the pulsating egg in the creepy room, in the creepy egg hatchery." Anyway, that's all I want to say to you, that you had the opportunity to be the change you wanted to see in the world, and instead you're perpetuating negative basketball media.
But we had a Prometheus chat, so at the end of the day, everyone wins. Final piece of news, Chauncey Billups has named Josh Hart as the Blazers' starting small forward, according to Aaron J. Fentress of the Oregonian. I would have loved a defensive 3-and-D wing next to Damian Lillard, like Josh Hart, in the backcourt. Because the major concern with the Portland Trailblazers for what seems like a decade is the fact that they've got 2 undersized defensive lacking guards in CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard in their backcourt. And yeah, it's just like they just don't have enough. They just don't have enough of the role playing ability and the more defensive stuff that Josh Hart brings. And in naming him the 3, and Fernie Simons is going to be the 2. What do you think about this? I want to hear you talk about this.
Much like Chelsea Football Club has the curse of the number 9, which is that any striker that wears number 9 jersey flops.
Yeah.
It's been going for like 15 years.
Yeah.
Seriously, like, maybe Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, 3 goals in his first 5 games, looking like a real quality centre forward. Maybe he can break the curse, but it's affected every person who's put it on, who's put on that number 9 shirt. The Blazers have the curse of the Blazers 3, because every bloke who has had a role-playing 3-and-D skill set that has gone to Portland has just gotten incrementally worse every single season. And it's sad, because I really like Josh Hart. He's actually a Chelsea fan.
Oh, and he's actually really funny.
Yeah, and he's actually pretty good at basketball. But in 2024, we're going to be sitting here being like, man, the Blazers really love surrounding Damian Lillard with subpar defensive wings. But seriously, this is the only option that they had. Is the only person who could possibly start at.
Nice Little.
No, Nas Little's a big brother.
That's my big brother.
No, Shaden Sharp is not ready for starting duties.
I don't know if he watched in preseason, but he's had some really nice finishes.
Yeah,
it's also just nice in general to watch him play basketball.
Yeah, I mean,
never seen that before.
He can dunk.
No, he had some really athletic finishes on the way down, sort of push up.
Well, that's why Nate Duncan had him as his number one prospect in the class. But yeah, Josh Hart was realistically the only like wing-sized player who can slot in at the 3 next to Jeremy Grant at the 4. Like your other options, you're looking at Keon Johnson, who came over from the Clippers after being the worst rookie on a team that included 2 undrafted rookie wings.
He was like the worst G League player.
Yeah. Or Gary Payton, who's not a wing. So, Josh Hart, cool. Congratulations. You've done the bit. Chauncey Billups has done the bit. And now we get to see what the Portland Trailblazers with 2 undersized guards and 2 defensive wings looks like. I'm so excited.
Funny. No, that's funny.
I'm so excited.
All right. Now that's all the news. Now let's talk about, because the next time we speak, by the way, do you want to come around on Wednesday and watch it with JVG boys? Wednesday
what time?
Night? Maybe 7
p.m.
Yeah. 6 or 7. Have a bit of dinner, and then we might record a podcast.
What are we watching?
The opening night.
It's at 7.
Yeah, no, it's on during the day, but we'll just watch it later.
Yeah, bloody hell.
Yeah, cool. I had to tell you on a podcast because I know you're not replying to your messages.
No, my phone's in the ocean.
Yeah, right. But yeah, next time we talk, just now, it'll be on opening night. So what are some of the? Sorry, let me rephrase that. We're going to bring one storyline and one thing that we're interested to see out when the season starts. And Dante, what are you looking forward to this season?
I'm looking at the Cavs going into this season because obviously they were the feel-good story for the first 2/3 of last season before the wheels fell off and everybody got injured. But I want to see, now that they've kind of pushed the chips in and now that they've consolidated their star power, they're no longer led by up-and-comers. They're no longer led by people who it's like, oh, is he an all-star? I don't know. Has he done enough? They're led by a genuine, bona fide top 20 player. Maybe top 25. In Donovan Mitchell, whom they acquired from Utah for the princely sum of lots of picks and matching salary. I want to see how good this team is. Is this team a genuine top 4 cemented competitor? Or is this team not vaulted out of that back end of the playoffs play-in morass which we saw in the East last season? And I think a lot of it depends both on Mitchell and how he adjusts to his new surroundings, but also on Mobley. Is Mobley ready to take that step now and be an 18 and 10, all defensive candidate type player? Because if that's the case, and if you get your 25 and 6 on 44 from the field from Donovan Mitchell, I'm not even trying to be funny about it, throwing that in there. Donovan Mitchell's 44% from the field is worth more than some other players' 44%.
Yeah. I'm laughing with you.
You snickered. I'm really keen to see this young team, the leader of the team now being Donovan Mitchell. He's 26 years old. Mobley's 19, 20. Garland is 21 or 22, and Allen's probably only 23. This is a young team. They've pushed the chips in now. There's 3 All-Stars on this roster. 3 All-Stars from last season on this roster. That's a collection of young talent, the likes of which we haven't seen for 10 years. Now, obviously, you know who I'm talking about. The last time we saw it, none of them will be as good as any of the OKC players. Serge Ibaka excluded. But, this just doesn't happen when you can get so many under 25 players who are such quality. But that's, this is it.
Yeah.
This is it. Now is the time.
I mean, this is it. Now's the time for the next 3 years.
Yeah, but they're telling us, this is the group of players who are going to do this. And, if they are going to do it, we're going to see it this year. We're going to see that, that top 4 status. We're going to see that they're going to hit 50 wins.
They're also in a bit of an interesting spot because if they lose in the first round, they're sort of on house money, and it's oh, well, their first year together. Next year, it's major, you better fucking do something. You better get a top 4 seed. But, it's going to be a pretty cushy season. It's going to be a really nice season. Feel each other out a little bit. see how far you can go. See if you can get a top 4 seed. They're going to win a lot of games because like the players they have are just regular season machines. Darius Garland's hitting some really tough threes in preseason. Like he is so comfortable, and like obviously I was super high on him last year and the years before that. But it was like nice to see him like explode and be the guy he is. But this year he looks so confident. Like he's hitting some like readjusting step back threes that are just like. Yeah, we've talked about this probably a couple of months ago where it's just like, oh, is Steph Curry's record going to hold for long because there's such great shooters, and Darius Garland, who is a great shooter, but you're not looking at him like, oh, he's going to break Steph Curry's record. He's just a great shooter who's just doing like great shooting things and hitting like tippy toe threes, and it's like there's just a lot here. And obviously every single time Donovan Mitchell catches the ball and he lets it spin in his right hand a little bit, like that's just 2 points right there no matter what. And Evan Mobley is going to miss, I think, like another week or maybe 2 more weeks. But
it's an ankle.
I mean, there was all these rumours last year that it's like, oh, OKC, we're going to trade up and draft him first. Oh, Houston wanted to trade up and draft him first and stuff. And he looked like a dude who deserves to be drafted first. And he looks like the sort of like the opposite of Rudy Gobert, where it's like Rudy Gobert can hold up a great regular season defense and do all this stuff, but Evan Mobley fixes all of his problems elsewhere while also maybe being just as good on defense, while also playing next to a center, switching onto the small guys. And the biggest problem with their injuries last year is because they had just like broken through and become like a good play-in, playoff team. As soon as they just got a couple of injuries, they were just dead. And it's like, oh, you cannot literally do anything.
Well, they also got injuries to like all of their backup ball handlers, and Garland was playing through an injury for the last third of last season.
But now they got Raul Neto, Robin Lopez, Kevin Love's there, Karis LeVert's like a player off the bench.
Did Rick Rubio come back?
Rick Rubio came back. I haven't seen him in preseason.
The problem for them is the wing spot.
I mean, yeah, who's the starting three? It's probably Isaac Okoro.
It's probably Okoro.
It should be Chetty Osman.
Chetty Osman's also not good.
Oh, he's a very good 3-point shooter.
Is he?
Yeah.
I hadn't noticed.
Yeah. He's like one of the...
He's being facetious.
Okay,
no,
cool.
He's not. Chetty Osman's not a starting 3 on a good team.
It's just because this team's got like 2 point guards and 2 centers. You can run with a bad defender, but he's not even that bad. I also just want to see what Lamar Stevens looks like at the 3 there, because like they've got enough shooting elsewhere. He's a dude who plays really hard. Like he might be their best defender, and even like Dean Wade, he's tall enough. They've got a lot of options. I don't think any of them are the right answer.
Yeah.
If they could like find some spell and revive like prime Trevor Ariza, that'd be so hot. But I'm also looking for that spell.
What about a trade with the Phoenix Suns for Jay Crowder?
He's not a 3. They were involved. There was a report last week that they were in the market, but they seemed to have been eclipsed by the Atlanta Hawks, who were having serious discussions about Jay Crowder trade. But then again, I don't know. Jordan
the
Clarkson.
Atlanta Hawks 3 seasons ago had every single young wing, and they all looked good, and now all of them are bad and gone.
Yeah, hey, it sucks, doesn't it? But yeah, this is interesting, but sort of house.
Sorry to interrupt you, but we can take our and we have been taking our Cam Reddish victory lap for the last 18 months.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad though.
No,
he's wearing an undershirt today, and it just didn't look recognisable. He plays for the New York Knickerbockers. Yeah, I know.
Is Kevin Knox still kicking around in Atlanta as the other end of that trade? The saddest trade of young wings.
He is. I did a Hawks My League yesterday, and he's still there. He's still on the roster. Confirmed.
Reputable source of information.
It's a little bit annoying whenever I do a My League on 2K, because I just have to use like my custom roster, which is the exact same roster, but deleted Milebridge.
Yeah.
Because otherwise he's there and he just gets signed by like the Spurs for like 4 for 80.
Yeah.
Tiny detail. There's bigger problems in the world. Like another bridge, the Crimean one. You want to talk about what I'm looking forward to this season?
A geopolitical barb, and then moving right on. Yeah, let's talk about it. I'm very interested to talk about this actually. Because
I want to see what the fuck Ben Simmons is going to look like. I want to see like what he actually does. He had an excellent game today, an excellent game in 20 minutes. 6, 7, 10, right? And he's just like everything we talked about Draymond at the top of this podcast. He's everything but none of the rim protection. But he had a great game 1-on-1 against Giannis, which is like a little bit of, okay, it's preseason, I want to see him do in the regular season. but at least he had this positive sign. And he just kept getting the ball, right? He would get it at the high post, and it was the most fucking aggressive dribble handoff I've ever watched anyone do. But because he is a great passer, he would just like aggressively run it into KD. Maybe KD gives it back to him. There's been a few tic-tac-toes. But he had a couple of nice ones where he would get the ball, he would dribble past the DHO, and then all of a sudden Kyrie Irving's just popped out for an easy mid-ranger that Ben Simmons has just found him wide open. And like, it's just such a weird situation because while I think this is perfect, he's just surrounded by creators and shooters, and it's like he's going to be next to Joe Harris and Seth Curry and Kyrie and KD and everything, but he can't defend the rim, and he's not a 5, and he can't do the stuff that Draymond does on that specific part of the defense. So then you go, okay, well, Nick Claxton, what if he just gets better? What if they trade for someone at the deadline and they bring in, I'll just say randomly, Miles Turner? But then you're going to run across the exact same issues that Ben Simmons has had for the past 5 years of his career, where it's like, okay, well, let's do a snug pick and roll for 5 times a game so it looks like they're doing something, but it's really fucking awkward. But then all of a sudden he's not like the biggest dude on the court, and it's just so interesting. I don't know what's actually going to happen, but it looks all right so far.
Well, I mean, offensively, like, I don't think there's any doubt that he's still a tremendously valuable player, because even though, like, you know, his warts are maybe the most visible warts of any player in the last 5 years. He's such a good passer. He's an absolute force in transition. Like, he would be a top 5 transition player in the league. He's an awesome finisher, either hand around the rim. Obviously, you know, back injury notwithstanding, we actually don't know what the severity of that was, because there was no clear reporting, you may remember, from that absolute slog.
Just think about how you were talking about how far ago 2 weeks ago was. But remember, he said he got the injury before the pass against the Atlanta Hawks where he passed off a layup,
which was 2 years ago at this point. That was 2 years ago.
Yeah, maybe not fully 2 years.
Was it 2 years ago?
It was like 18 months.
18 months, yeah. Fucking no. It would have been like May.
But he said he had the back injury before he suited up for that game.
And we don't know if that's true. We don't know if he was like making it up about the back injury, you know, or exacerbating the back injury, like exaggerating the back injury. No one really knows anything. So back injury notwithstanding, he's such an athletic player, always been a really good finisher when he's been in space and allowed to. Like, that's the key for him, is like having space, because he doesn't have the tightest handle of anyone in the entire world. He's not like getting himself in and out of like of little spots like a small traditional point guard will. And we've been kind of saying for years that we wanted to see him be used like Blake Griffin, like playing as the big and pick and roll, get him playmaking on the short roll when he's not like running in transition. And this team is perfectly positioned for him to do exactly that. And you're talking about the DHOs and then a hard roll to the rim. Like, that's
what he should be doing.
This is exactly what he needs to be doing, and it's exactly the way to like best leverage his skills. When he gets a chance to go in transition, give him the ball and let him go. Like, run, get Kyrie and KD out, and like look for him to finish. He's averaged, you know, 16 or 17 points every single season he's played, despite not being able to shoot free throws or threes. Or mid-ranges, despite not being able to shoot. So he's a guy who's getting points from transition, from running the floor hard. Like, he's having an impact offensively. Defensively, I mean, you're right in that he's not really a rim protector, and that poses problems by having, you know, where you need to have a big next to him. That's what we saw in Philly with Embiid, and Nick Claxton probably isn't the level of rim protector that
they need to
you want to be comfortable just like saying, well, you know, like, if you're going to really clog up the spacing to cover up for Ben Simmons' lack of rim protection, you want to get a fucking good rim protector in there. You don't want to just get any guy. But this team, for the whole Kyrie and KD, Steve Nash era, has not cared one jot about D. And they've succeeded to a certain extent by just having heaps of great offensive players. And nothing's different this season. I mean, KD's back, Kyrie's there. You've got Simmons hopefully playing the role that he always should have been playing. And then all of the small men shooting the lights out from behind the arc.
It's so interesting, and I'm actually really excited to see what happens.
I think this guy, the last time he played a full season, he was like 17, 7 and 7, and he was all defensive first team, second in defensive player of the year, with the highest matchup difficulty rating in the league. He's defending Jimmy Butler, LeBron, KD, Kyrie. You know, Kyrie. Like every player like 1 through 4 who potentially plays on the perimeter, he's defending him. This guy he's an awesome basketball player.
Yeah. Also, he's still young. Like, what if...
He's 25.
What if he does turn into a good rim protector? Like, if he does that, then he's Draymond. And you don't need more from him. He doesn't need to shoot threes. So, like, it's not bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all.
All right, well, that's everything. So, would you like to wrap up?
Yeah. Before we do that, though...
talk about the article.
We've got the 2023 Deep 2 Extended Universe Awards predictions up, featuring yours truly, my podcast adversary, sitting next to me, and then Aless and Lucas and Marco from the JVG NBA Tribute Show. So that was a really fun article, which is up on the site now. You can go over to... Where can you find that?
Deep2.com.
Thedeep2.com. That's pretty easy. That's pretty simple.
Yeah.
I can't believe it's not dairy. So you can find that over there. We also had an article from Lucas written in the aftermath of the FIBA Women's World Cup, where he had unprecedented media access and spoke to luminaries of the women's basketball world, such as Bridget Carlton, Aja Wilson, have you heard of it? And Australian Annalie Maley. And that was a really fun piece as well, using direct quotes.
Yeah.
Because he's talking to these people.
Yeah.
He's talking to these people after the game. It's pretty crazy. So you can find that on the site as well.
Dante, I'll speak to you next week on Wednesday night.
On Wednesday night, I'll see you there.
We were over the moon when we first heard that the NBA was going to be televised on Australian free-to-air TV in the 2019-20 season. It didn't exactly go swimmingly, with the nasty cough halting the season and games getting cancelled left, right and centre, but it was a huge step and an exciting one for basketball fans all across the country.
Better yet, it wasn't a commercial channel cashing in on some basketball nerds like us. It was SBS, one of our public broadcasters. Unfortunately, the NBA wasn't the only thing SBS was pushing last season. They also ran advertisements from Sportsbet, Ladbrokes, Bet365, BetEasy and Neds, some of the biggest sports betting companies in Australia.
In a one step forwards, two steps backwards move, SBS has dropped the ball here. As a public broadcaster, SBS plays a key role in providing relevant, culturally appropriate health information to local communities. The last thing SBS should be doing is offering a platform for gambling companies during the most financially unstable time in recent memory.
This past year, men aged 18 to 24 made up 79% of new gambling account holders, with increased median spending and frequency of bets. This is the last thing we should be spending our money on, given the financial uncertainty that comes with the pandemic. During COVID lockdowns, wagering companies spent more money on advertising and incentives to gamble, and it worked. SBS needs to hear from viewers that gambling ad revenue isn't worth the harm it causes. Call on the SBS chair, George Savitas, to put community health ahead of gambling revenue by signing the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/get gambling off SBS with hyphens in between.